Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ashley and today we're going to do a tag video. We are going to do my eyeshadow palette collection tag. So this is something that I've seen floating around quite recently and I got really excited to do it because, as you know, if you've seen any of my videos, I am eyeshadow obsessed. I have it here. I have them here. I have them in drawers over here. I have them in drawers in the hallway. I'm an addict. So when I saw this tag going around, I was like, yes, this is the video for me. Now, I will say this was created by Samantha March and Allie. I think that I'm saying her last name correctly. I will make sure that they are both linked in the description box below, so definitely check them out. I used to watch Allie's channel a lot a couple of years ago. I've always watched Samantha March's channel, and they are both just lovely creators, so I would definitely recommend them if you are unfamiliar with their channels. Now, before we get into the different prompts, I do want to say, first of all, yes, still living the bun life because that is just where we live right now. So if you're tired of seeing the bun, I'm really sorry. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. Secondly, I am going to try to film this video a little bit more quickly because we have another storm rolling in, and our storms recently have been seriously no joke. There was one that rolled in the other day, and I mean, it came just lightning fast, pun kind of intended. Knocked out our power at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was out for 11 hours. Try having no power with 2 infants and a toddler. It was fun, let me tell you. So I definitely want to get this video filmed a little bit more quickly, just in case something like that happens again. I'm really hoping not, but you just never know. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get into the prompts. So I am going to be reading them off of my phone, so if you see me looking around, that's where I'm at. So the first thing is your newest palette. So you may know, if you've seen any of my recent videos, that I went on kind of a palette purchasing spree, but technically the last one to have arrived is this beauty right here. This is by Dominique Cosmetics, and this is the Celestial Storm palette. And guys, she's so pretty. So pretty. Let me go ahead and do this. I never really fold my palettes backwards all the way because I don't like breaking the binding. I'm the same way with books. I know, I'm a nerd. But this is what this palette looks like. It is so stinking gorgeous. There are 6 mattes and 6 glittery shimmers, and I love this palette. It's a little out of the box for me. I'm not someone that really gravitates towards super bright palettes, but this is gorgeous and I love it. So the next prompt is show your oldest palette. So the oldest palette that I can remember is this one right here. So this is by Ciate London. This is in collaboration with Olivia Palermo. When I bought this, I didn't know who Olivia Palmero was or is, but I really liked the colors that were in here. Interestingly enough, I don't like this palette. I don't like the way that the colors interact together. It is a cooler tone palette, which I do absolutely appreciate, but there isn't enough color variation to really make a look that I end up being happy with. The 2 mattes that are, I'm sorry, the 3 mattes that are in it, this shade, and then this kind of gray blue shade right here, they're dark, and even this shade right here, once it goes into the crease, is still dark on my skin, and then the shimmers are all dark as well, so you just get kind of a flat dark look. So I don't love this palette. I do hold on to it because it's literally the first thing that I ever purchased from Sephora, so I hold on to it for that reason. And eventually I would like to pan it. I do have it as one of the palettes in my Pan Those Eyeshadows rotation, because I think if I pair it with other things, I might get some usage out of it that way. But even still, trying to figure out how I'm going to use these darker shimmers, just not sure. But this is the oldest palette in my collection. The next prompt is my most expensive palette. Oh, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, I mean for my wallet, I have a few pricey palettes in my collection, but this here is the most expensive. This is my Natasha Denona Star Palette. This retails for $169, which is crazy. Crazy. I have no regrets. I mean, this palette is absolutely stunning and I use it all the time. I mean, all the time. It doesn't look like it because I've got about a bajillion eyeshadows and I'm a project panner, but I really do use it all the time and I absolutely love it. You can create so many fun, absolutely gorgeous looks out of it that are evening appropriate, work appropriate, heavy smoky eye, light sort of, easy, no makeup sort of look. This palette is phenomenal. Now, I did not pay full price for it. I did buy it during one of the Sephora sales a while ago, and so I did get it at 20% off, but she's still pricey, so she's still my most expensive palette. By contrast, my least expensive palette is this one right here. This is the Wet n Wild Comfort Zone. This is the original guy right here. This retails for like $5 or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but super inexpensive. Wet n Wild is known for being inexpensive. And it's a nice little palette. I bought it because of all the hype surrounding it. I haven't gotten quite enough usage out of it to really make it worth even the $5 or so that I paid for it, but that again is because I've got a ton of eyeshadow and nothing gets the appropriate amount of usages. I have heard that since they have repackaged, that they also reformulated, and people don't like the formula in the new version as much as they like it in the original, so I am really happy to have this, but it definitely, like everything else, needs to get more use. The next prompt, your everyday palette. And so here's the thing. I don't have an everyday palette. I am a project panner, so I'm usually focusing on something specific. Over the past couple of years, I've been doing the Pan Those Eyeshadows project, so my everyday eyeshadows change somewhat frequently, but I approached this prompt as if I were choosing just a palette for my collection as something that would be my everyday palette if I wasn't panning. And the one that I came to, I think was this one. I've got all of my palettes piled up in front of me. Yeah, I think it's this one. So this is by BH Cosmetics. This is my Royal Affair palette. And this has a fabulous array of colors. So it's got cooler tones. I mean, it's not a cool tone palette, but it's got cooler tones, but it still has a splash of warmer shades as well. It has a great variety of different depths of color. It's got mattes, it's got shimmers. It is just a fabulous little palette. Unfortunately, this was limited edition, so you can't get it anymore. But if I were to choose from my collection an everyday palette, I feel like this guy would be a very, very strong contender. The next prompt is my most colorful palette. And I swear I went through all of my palettes to try to find something that was not going to be a duplicate. But as I said earlier, I don't gravitate towards vivid, bright colors. This is really the only thing that's even close to being a rainbow palette. I have palettes that have pops of bright colors in them, but none that are specifically bright palettes. So this really is the brightest palette in my collection. And I mean, you can see this really, really bright berry color. I also have this really beautiful bright purple, bright blue. You've got these different colorful shimmers. This is definitely my most colorful palette. The next prompt that I have here is my smallest palette, and that's got to go to these guys right here. These are my little tiny Natasha Denona mini palettes. I have two of them. I've got the mini Lila and the mini Star palettes, and I think if I had to choose just one of them, I think it'd be the mini Star palette. I just, again, like I said on the actual full-size Star palette, it's just such a great assortment of colors, and I just really, really love the Natasha Denona formula, I can't lie. And my biggest palette, that is going to be, no surprise here, a lot of people have been talking about this palette. This is definitely my largest palette. This is the Morphe Jaclyn Hill. I mean, it's a great palette, but she takes up some space. I actually have a couple of Morphe 35 pan palettes. This one just is larger by a smidge than those. But yeah, these 35 pan palettes are definitely ones that take up some space. The next prompt, the palette with the best memory. And that is going to be my Natasha Denona Lila palette. So this was a gift from my husband a couple of years ago. It was very soon after I started my channel, and he wanted to be supportive of that, and periodically he'll look at my loves lists on both Sephora and Ulta and usually use that as a guidepost and either pick out something, or here lately it's just been gift cards. But he did purchase this for me for Christmas one year. I stinking love it. I mean, he knows how much I love purple anyway. Purple is probably my favorite color, followed very closely by green. But yeah, this is a gorgeous palette. It was my very first Natasha Denona palette. Sadly, it's what made me fall in love with Natasha Denona eyeshadows and buy more because I'm crazy. But yeah, this definitely has the best memory for me, and one that even if it were to go bad and I wouldn't be able to use it anymore, or if I actually panned the whole thing, which I can't see that actually happening, but if I did, I would hold on to this forever just because it has such great feelings wrapped around it. The next, a palette that's worth the hype. That is going to be this right here. This is the ABH collaboration with Jackie Aina. This, I know you can't get anymore, so again, I apologize. This is an incredible palette. It is so, so good. It has, of course, the ABH shadow formula that we know and love, as well as just a fantastic grouping of colors, duochromes. Everything is just on point with this palette, and in my opinion, it is totally, totally worth the hype. So, a palette not worth the hype. I struggled with this a lot because I don't typically buy things the moment that they come out. I tend to wait for other people to kind of dig in and use it, and sorry, I've got a hair stuck in my lipstick. And then use that to make my purchases, which is kind of the point of a lot of these YouTubers and Instagrammers and bloggers getting these products either early or as soon as they come out, so that they can allow us all to be more educated consumers, or at least in theory, that's how it's supposed to work. So I struggled with this a lot because I like pretty much all of my eyeshadow palettes, at least the ones that I purchased because of the hype around them. Now, I do definitely have some duds, don't get me wrong, but they're not ones that I feel like were hyped up. So this is going to be controversial. Even for me is controversial because I go back and forth on whether or not I actually agree with this statement, but I'm going to go for it, and that's going to be my Pat McGrath Mothership 5 palette. Yeah. So here's the thing. I love this palette. It's a beautiful palette. It looks like this. It's very, very pretty. The matte formula is, of course, really, really great. Do I think it is revolutionary? No, of course not. It's a matte formula, but it blends amazingly well. So you can definitely tell a difference between these shadows and some other brands that are not quite as, it's sitting at as high of a price point. However, the shades that I purchased this palette for are the kind of duo and multi-chrome shades here in the corner. And they are beautiful. And the thing is though, when you look at the swatches, they look amazing. These are very, very, very glittery shadows and take a ton of building. And I don't think that the swatches give that sort of backstory, I guess, because I was very surprised when I received it, and it didn't live up to my expectations, and the hype that maybe I had put into it. So, I mean, now that I know kind of how to work with these shadows a little bit more, I do still really, really love this palette, but I don't necessarily know that I feel like it's worth the $125 price point. I did not pay that much for this palette right here. I had one of those Sephora credits where you cash in like 2,500 points and you get $100 to spend. That's what I used to buy this. So I only paid like $25 plus tax for it. But yeah, that's going to be my answer, and I'm going to leave it alone because I know I'm going to catch flack. I know it. And then the your favorite palette from your favorite brand. I, again, struggled with this one as well, and I'm seeing now where I grabbed the wrong palette earlier, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, my favorite palette from my favorite brand. I don't really have a true favorite brand when it comes to eyeshadow. I've got a lot of favorites. As I said before, the Natasha Denona has an amazing formula and I love it. I also really, really love ColourPop, you know, and that's on the opposite end of the spectrum. I love ABH shadows. So there are quite a few brands that I have favorites. I know most people are really highlighting ColourPop, and for good reason. Their eyeshadow formula is fantastic. But I've said time and time again that I feel like a very, very underrated brand is BH Cosmetics. And of the palettes that I have, I think this one is one of my favorites. This is the Desert Oasis. I am a shimmer shade lover, and this has everything in it. You've got a couple of mattes in here for blending, but it is predominantly shimmer, and they are so freaking pretty. So my eyeshadow looks are not that complicated. I put a transition shade all through my crease, tends to be, you know, just a mid-tone or lighter shade, build up a darker matte on the outer corner, and then I go in all over the lid with a shimmer. I am very predictable, so having something that is heavier on the shimmers, for me, is perfect. But these are just absolutely stunning. So let me give you just some quick swatches, like, so good. Those are very light. I didn't go in super heavy or anything like that. Like, BH Cosmetics, so good and so underrated. So there is my pick for that. So where I see I kind of went wrong. The prompt that I had for your everyday palette was actually supposed to be this one right here. So I've got an extra one. But this is the original Persona Identity palette. And guys, this palette is amazing. Amazing. Looks like this right here. Obviously has a mirror in it. It's got a great assortment of mattes and shimmers. It's perfect. It's perfect for every day. It's perfect for going out. You can easily build it into a smoky eye. This palette is amazing, and I cannot recommend it more highly. But this would have been my everyday palette if I wasn't terribly disorganized. And finally, my most used palette. I struggled with this one as well. As I said earlier, I project pan, and I do a lot of the Pan Those Eyeshadows project. I have attempted to pan 2 palettes. My most used palette is not my favorite palette. In fact, it has become one of my least favorite palettes, which is a little bit frustrating. But it is my Lorac Mega Pro 4. I've just discovered that I don't love this formula. For me, it is very inconsistent. So for example, a lot of the shimmers down here are very chunky and just don't apply well or look nice on the eye. But then you have some over here that are gorgeous. Like for instance, Steel Wool, Honey, Pearl Slate, Copper Pearl. Beautiful, beautiful shimmers. The mattes are usually pretty good, but yeah, this is not my favorite palette and certainly not my favorite formula, but it is my most used palette because it was my Pan That palette for, well, my unofficial Pan That palette for 2019. Ugh, I can't get over these swatches. They're so stinking pretty. Ugh, anyway. So yes, that is my eyeshadow collection tag. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I would love to know down in the description box below, have you done this tag? I would love to check out your videos. If you don't make videos, I would love to know some of your favorite palettes. Whether you agree or disagree with some of my choices, I am dying to know what you think down in the description below. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I hope that you're having an amazing day, and I will see you next time.